All right, the recording has begun, and this is the Salla community, and we're joined by Dr. Stephen Walkley and Dr. Melissa Wasserstein. Dr. Melissa Wasserstein, her specialty is clinical biochemical genetics, pediatrics. Her work focus is primarily evaluating effectiveness and safety of new and novel medications with patients with metabolic and genetic disorders. Her affiliations include, and please forgive me if I'm wrong or add to it if I've forgotten, Mount Sinai. Currently at Montefiore, she is Associate Professor of Department of Pediatric Genetic Medicine, Associate Professor, Department of Genetics, and she's the Chief Division of Pediatric Medicine. So she is, I mean, that doesn't even scratch the surface of what she can bring to this. Dr. Stephen Walkley, he's the director of Rose F. Kennedy Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Research Center. His diseases primarily focus on lysosomal storage disorders, Niemann-Pick, types A and C, cystinosis, gangliosidosis, I hope I said it right, Sanfilippo type A, and Batten disorders. And now we can add to this Salla disease. So we are so blessed and we're so honored that you're with us, doctors. And at this point, I'm going to open the floor as to what we hope to happen at the first think tank and family camp at the end of September.
Okay, Melissa, do you want to say something first, or should I just start?
Why don't you start, and then I'll
try. Okay. You know, it's really remarkable. And can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I see a lot of nodding heads. That's great. It's really remarkable what's happened here. You know, it started with a comment from a friend to a friend, and in the end, the folios met me, and then Dr. Wasserstein became involved, and it's really remarkable. I had never, my lab works on lysosomal diseases, as Jessica said, but I had never worked on Salla disease. And what I explained to the folios was that Salla, and as many of you will know, Salla disease is really it's an orphan disease. It fits into this large family of 60 different types of lysosomal diseases. But apart from that, it doesn't fit into any of the major groups of those diseases. In other words, there are, you know, different larger classifications of lysosomal diseases, and like Tay-Sachs disease and allied disorders, for example, or the mucopolysaccharide storage diseases. And there are groups that foundations and family organizations that really support the parents and patients with many of the other lysosomal diseases. But so far as I know, there's no organization sort of looking out for Salla disease families. And so it's a, you know, and as I think I said to Jessica and Mike, when I was working on I contributed to the chapter on lysosomal diseases in a neuropathology textbook called Greenfields. When we were classifying those diseases, Salla disease ended up under other, with just a handful of other lysosomal diseases. Most of them could fit into the larger classification types. And so it's a disease that's rare and understudied, and you know, the whole idea that we came up with as we sort of focused on that kind of issue was that it would be great if something could be done to sort of boost research and to engage investigators to think about developing therapies for this disease. And as I sort of looked out on the literature and started calling people, I got the sense that, you know, there had been a good bit of work done here and there, but there was very little active work going on now. And as I talked to some, for example, we have several people from NIH coming to our science meeting. They some of them had worked on Salla disease therapy a while back, and another investigator from California had actually submitted grants on a mouse model of Salla disease, but funding sort of dried up. Again, rare disease, sometimes they simply can't get the funding that commoner diseases get. And so the projects had sort of stopped. And it just raised our interest even more in trying to do something to jumpstart the thinking and efforts towards understanding this disease better, and then trying to think about therapy approaches. So that's where this whole idea came from of what I started calling a think tank. It's basically a one-day, very intense meeting where interested scientists and clinicians will be together to brainstorm on what we understand about Salla disease and what we don't understand, and then what has been attempted in terms of therapy and preclinical studies involving animal models, for example, and then what maybe has been thought of but hasn't been tried, or maybe things that haven't even been thought of in application to Salla disease yet, but where it might be fertile to do so. So that's sort of the background, and so we've designed this one day of intense get-together where we have about a dozen scientists and clinicians who will be with us. So, Melissa, maybe I'll stop there for a moment and just let you say a few words as well.
Well, I like Steve, really want to commend Jessica and Mike for pulling this together. It's really incredible what you've done in such a short period of time, and the fact that this is, a Sunday morning and there's people from all around the world with the same interest and focus is really just speaks to what an extraordinary thing you've been capable of pulling together. And I'm just so excited to be part of it with Steve. So I think that, Steve has been talking about the think tank. There's going to be a lot of focus on understanding the biology and the pathophysiology of Salla disease, but there's also going to be a focus on the clinical aspects of it and kind of putting together the search for treatment, the search for understanding, along with a clinical research focus. So, perhaps discussions about repurposing drugs that are already available, perhaps a discussion about how to get together a natural history study or disease registry. So when there's something that is so rare, getting a way to organize all of that data from across the planet, putting it together so that we can have endpoints, that we can actually start putting together trials when we're ready to do so. It saves a lot of time that way. So getting it all together in one think tank is just a really very efficient and focused way to do it. So it's going to be a really exciting day, and I think it'll be very productive.
Yeah, those are really excellent points. And, I think you could sort of say, I think probably the biggest question here is, well, what do we hope to get out of this? And, I think that by having these experts in the room sharing what they know, not just about Salla disease, but about how to advance knowledge and therapy for a rare disease, the goal, and certainly at the latter part of the meeting, is going to be designed to come up with action points that can be pursued after the meeting. This is not a one-day meeting that's going to happen and then everything's just going to go back to the way it was. We really want to engage these scientists and clinicians and see what we can do to actually move things forward immediately after that meeting. And I was really surprised, actually, as I contacted different individuals, whether they'd be interested in attending this meeting, and the excitement that was out there was just really remarkable. I think there have been a lot of people who thought about Salla disease in the past and would really like to re-engage on some very active studies to try to pursue it. One of the people we've invited to the meeting, some of you may know the name, his name is William Gall, or Bill Gall. He's a senior scientist at NIH. This group actually developed a therapy for another lysosomal disease called cystinosis, which is actually very similar in terms of its disease, the sort of mechanism of what happens when that protein is missing. And there's a trapping of a particular compound within this organelle in the cell called the lysosome. And his group devised a sort of a molecular trick to get that material out of the lysosome. It was a drug, small molecule drug, that provided a way to prevent that storage of a protein within the lysosomal system. And Salla disease is similar to that in that there is a compound, a small compound that's building up inside the lysosome. And if we can somehow use a similar kind of methodology to sort of trick the lysosome into releasing it, then some of the disease potentially could be prevented. And so there are, they're very, very talented people, and this is just one idea. I mean, there are others as well in terms of potential therapies, but like with so many rare diseases, we need to understand more about the genetic mutations that cause the disease and what they do to the presence of a protein or an abnormal protein that then generates the lysosomal problem and then the downstream effects of that. So we will focus in this meeting on issues of pathogenesis at a preclinical sort of level in cells, and there is a mouse model using that mouse model as well. Because by having insight into that disease process, it may open up even additional ideas as to therapy. But the goal of the meeting is to get these experts in a room where they can share everything they know, including their enthusiasm about moving forward on this, and then come out of it with some very actionable items that we can then follow up on in various labs, and also determine, who we didn't invite to the meeting, who might be a real contributor to the effort, and then reach out to those individuals as well. So it's really a starting point, not an end point in terms of the effort here.
Great.
So Jessica and Mike, are there, what else would you like for me to say? I mean, I can go through the sort of tentative outline we have for the meeting, but maybe that level of detail is not needed.
Where I think a lot of folks are interested is why you chose the doctors you chose for this think tank. Although I think you've tackled that, and then there is room for collaboration with other doctors down the road. I think, what were you going to say, honey?
Well, I was just going to say that when people may or may not know this, but when they refer to NIH, that's the National Institute of Health.
Oh,
now I get when you say NIH.
Oh, Lena.
So that's that's a governmental organization, that's obviously looking to cure or find cures for various things. It's
National Institute of Health is NIH.
Yeah, and I think it's in Bethesda too, right outside of DC. So,
Dr. Walkley, I also think it might be, hi, it's David. I think it might be interesting to hear your philosophy on parent researcher collaborations as well, just in general.
Yeah, I have had some experience with this with another lysosomal disease called Niemann-Pick type C, where in that case there is it started back in 2007 when I met a parent that had a young son with Niemann-Pick C disease. And we established in the beginning it was just an idea of, could we get parents to, and who had family organizations that, or little small foundations, to team up with some scientists and clinicians and try to create a very focused sort of collaborative that would advance studies directed, in this case, specifically at therapy for Niemann-Pick C disease. And what started in 2007 with two small family organizations and four scientists has been going on now since 2007, so 11 years. And we have a drug candidate that we discovered very early in that process that's now in a phase 3 clinical trial for Niemann-Pick C disease that we hope, in fact, will be approved for that disease later this year. And I mean, the discovery of that particular drug there was a little bit of luck involved, but at the same time, this research collaborative, which we call, by the way, support accelerated research for Niemann-Pick C disease, and so it's SOAR or SOAR NPC, and we even have written a paper describing how that group the collaborative was formed and how it advanced towards therapy for Niemann-Pick C disease. It's that we can make, if anybody's interested in reading that, we can make the paper available to you, published in the OrphanNet Journal of Rare Disease. But it's grown today to be still the same basic 4 scientists, but it's supported by 6 family organizations now, and they support research in labs, and again at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda. There's a natural history study that's been going on that's also received some support from this and other groups, and so it really provides sort of a blueprint for us, I think, to think about how to make progress with Salla disease, and so we look forward to bringing that experience in, and hopefully being able to use that to help us move forward with Salla.
Wow. Yes.
I actually completely agree with what you're saying, Steve. And I think that for super rare diseases like Salla and Niemann-Pick C, and I work with Niemann-Pick A and B, and I've had the same experience having families get very involved in the pursuit of novel treatments. One of the things that's really key when we're looking at developing treatments for very rare diseases that don't have a lot about them in the literature, which is the case with Salla, we need to have this natural history going. Like, we need to understand it so that when we do eventually come up with something that might be something that we want to try as treatment, we'll already know what we're looking for. It's really important to have endpoints, to know what we're looking at. Are we going to change, X, Y, or Z? What are we looking to change? What are we looking to modify? So that's something that the family groups are really important to help get established as natural history studies and clinical registries, so that we can get a really good understanding of what's supposed to happen. And then if we have something to try, what we're trying to change.
Yeah, the fact that there was a natural history study going for Niemann-Pick C disease when we discovered that drug, and all of that information was already being collected and was available, was absolute key for getting the phase 1 clinical trial for that drug initiated. And the importance is just, I don't think, I'm not a clinician, and earlier in my career, I really didn't appreciate how important that kind of thing is, but it's really crucial. Because if you find a drug and you don't have a natural history study going and those data collected already, your ability to actually initiate that trial is going to be very, very limited.
Great.
And there are a lot of different ways to start collecting patient information as well. And I think this will be a topic that really should get some attention at the meeting, and maybe even before that.
Yes. Doctors, shall I open this up for questions from our participants, or do we want to address anything else prior to that?
No, questions are fine.
Okay, I'm going to start with Finland. I believe we have 2 participants from Finland. Do you have any questions for doctors?
Thank you. It was nice to hear that the study is starting. You said we have to collect patients history, medical history. Can you explain me something more about it? What kind of history?
Melissa,
Yeah, so there's a few ways to do that. So for some rare diseases, there are patient registries where patients give consent, or the parents give consent for a doctor or a researcher to go through their medical record and enter data that specific data that we're looking for. There's a way to do it where people actually travel and go to one medical center where they get all the studies done at that medical center by the researchers, and they collect all that information. And then there's also a newer way, which we're working with actually Niemann-Pick A, B, and C, where there's a registry that families themselves enter some data, and then their doctors also enter data. Not sure what's going to be the best option for Salla, but I think it's something that we probably should discuss to figure out how we're going to collect that data, because it's really important that we have it from people with all ranges of severity, so we can kind of see the whole clinical phenotype, because certainly not I, and probably not too many physicians have seen a lot of kids with Salla, maybe except for some places in Finland. But I think we're going to rely on people from all over to share their experience so that we can learn.
Lena, I am sad that I didn't know of you much before this, because you seem to know a lot of people with the disease. So if you could get this out, and man, it is parent and doctor collaboration, because I don't know how you could get word out to them that this is really important to have this data and where they can collect it. But I wouldn't know where to start in Finland with that.
I think in Finland, the Turku University has done a lot of Salla disease research.
With Liza Paula.
Yes, and somebody else also. So I think the Turku University has some sort of data of all the Finnish families that got Salla disease.
Yeah, Lena, we did reach out. I know Anu Polanco in Helsinki fairly well. I did reach out to her, and she couldn't tell me of anyone who was actively working on a Salla disease now in Finland, but maybe, she had worked on it, I think, a little bit in the past, but was not working on it now. And but if and we also reached out, Melissa, I think both of us did, to a clinician in I forgot what city in Finland, but we didn't hear back from them. But if somehow we could get in contact with scientists or clinicians in Helsinki or elsewhere, we'd really love to be able to do that if there are people actively working on the disease.
I think nobody's doing the active work now.
Yeah.
When my son was born in 1994. About 3 years after that, there was some research, but not now.
I know Lena Peltonen was one very prominent clinician scientist who was working on Salla disease for a while, but I believe she's passed away, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah. And Tarja Varho.
Who? I'm sorry?
Tarja Varho. I can type it.
Sure.
I'll put it to the chat.
Okay. So gather the masses in Finland, okay, Lena?
Yes.
Gather them all. Okay, I'm going to turn the attention then to Switzerland and the Kaiser family. Do you have any questions, Kaisers?
Hello. As a father of Elodie, who has Salla disease, I try to get as much information as I can. And when I look for treatments that are available for other LSDs, I see that there are some substances like sugars or sugar-similar substances or precursors of sialic acid, like MANAC, and I don't know what with these things, how I should understand this. Is this something you can build a drug of, or is this just basic substance? But I read a lot about sugars, and for me that's very complicated. But I try to get more information. But on Salla disease, I have never seen anything more specific.
I couldn't understand all of that, but one of the we have 3 scientists coming from NIH, and one of them is an expert in sialic acid, which is, you mentioned, which is the substance that's building up inside the lysosome, and then the others are the Bill Gall group that has developed this therapy for cystinosis, this other lysosomal disease. So I think this, in terms of having experts in the room to help us understand the sialic acid buildup inside the lysosome, and then have individuals there who could maybe talk through the kinds of small molecule therapies that might be designed to assist in the exit of that compound that's building up. I think we've got the right experts to help us move on that. At least that's I feel fairly confident actually that on that front that we have the right people coming to the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn Moberg, I'm going to turn the attention to Sweden now. Carolyn, are you available, or do you have any questions?
Yeah, hi, it's Christian, Caroline's husband. Caroline is here as well. Just want to say thank you for this initiative. I think it's a really good thing to get started, and we're really sort of positive to be a part of it. And I mean, from our side, we have talked to a lot of doctors in Sweden. We haven't sort of found anyone, I would say, in Sweden, even in sort of the big hospitals in Stockholm and Gothenburg and Malmö that really can sort of add anything to the Salla disease analysis, except for what has already been sort of written. The studies that we have come across basically on the internet is more or less a description of the sort of empirical side of the disease, and not really sort of focused on treatment or what you can do to sort of make things better. So that's obviously one of the things that we would be really interested to know, if there is any way to sort of stop the process of sort of storing the sialic acid. But I mean, in terms of questions, not really any sort of fact questions related now, more than that we are really keen on being a part of this project. So
great. And I refer to a lot of us as pioneers. I'm hopeful that something's going to happen, but I feel like we're forging a path of knowledge. And I don't know that my Ben's going to be healed. I don't know that your children are going to be healed, but at least we're pioneering something new. And we're trying. And that is giving all of us purpose amidst this horrible diagnosis. And to have a purpose is just a beautiful thing, amidst this terrible disease. So with that, I'm going to change the conversation. I'm going to go to Canada.
Well, one second, too. And I think this is important. One, that we're, starting the foundation, we're moving forward. First off, it's amazing that we've gotten all of these families together.
Yeah.
When we first got our diagnosis, we knew of no one. So, just being able to speak to other families that have dealt with this or are just starting to deal with this, I think that's helpful for us, therapeutic in a way.
Yeah.
Just someone else to talk to or has been dealing with this. So that's a key thing, where we're getting people together. And another thing with our camp we're going to have, now we're going to start getting scientists together, start really thinking about this. The point was just made is that there's just information on the internet that describes this. it describes the disease, and I don't think it describes it very well. So, you know, I think it's key where we want to get education out there. We want to start research, support families. You know, that's what we're really, that's our goal. That's what we're trying to do here. But go ahead.
No, I am going to go to Canada now. Thank you.
Sure.
Nicole and Alicia Don?
Alexa, yeah.
Nicole and Alexa. Do you guys have any questions over there?
We just want us to start by saying thank you for doing this, because really we thought we were alone for so long. We did meet another family here in Canada, but you know, their outcome unfortunately was not positive. But at least we had someone we could talk to a bit and get some information. And that's why we had agreed to have Alexa published in a medical journal to get kind of the ball rolling and everything. And we spoke to Dr. Andrews here in Toronto at Sick Kids to try to get things going.
So that's another thing we wanted to talk about is the different types of Salla. You hear a lot about the infantile severe and the regular Salla has a normal type lifespan, but we never really had any info about intermediate, which is what she has. And she seems to be closer to the infantile than most of the kids that we've seen and we've been exposed to with Salla. She's having a seizure.
She's having a seizure now. Want to show everybody, sweetie? Yeah. Wow. So, and that's been increasing a lot lately too. We've had a lot of seizures. So a lot of like changes, a lot of things we have to get used to. You know, we have a lot of experience, so we're there for everyone. Just to let you know, if you have any questions about anything, Alexa's 6 now, going on 7, and we've been through a lot. So, but it's nice to be able to reach out to other families, and we're just really open with all of you doctors. If you need anything at all, you know, with Alexa, because she does have a lot of, she's got a lot of information, I think, with Salla. I don't know how to describe that, but we just feel like if we can make a difference and help you out as much as we can, we're open to that. So
there's a publication on her, no?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can put you in touch to email that publication.
Yeah, it was just to kind of get things moving, because there was nothing out there, very little. When they started researching, there wasn't a lot of information out there. So,
okay. Doctors Walkley and Wasserstein, I want to include you. Do you have anything that you want to add to the conversation as it's going on?
I think that's a great question.
Okay. Anybody else in Canada who might have a question? Alicia, Dawn, is that you?
This is Alicia. Yeah, there's no questions here. Just excited to be a part of this. So thank you very much for the initiative.
Thanks. Okay, let's turn our attention to the States then. Georgia. Atlanta, any questions, friends?
Yeah, of course. First, so this is Adam LeBlanc speaking with Christy. So, of course, we thank everybody for joining. I mean, we certainly also felt very alone, but I think we're very fortunate that this has come together so quickly. Maybe not a question for this, because I know we'll talk a little bit about it later, but one thing I'd like to just hear from the researchers, clearly something so rare, you talked about funding and funding drying up and things. I would like to hear, even just briefly, if there's any kind of successful kind of fundraising efforts that have been done in the past for things like this, just from your experience. You know, just to come up with something that's recurring and value added that could actually make you know, much of a difference as possible. I'd like that to be a session that we talk about in September when we come, because
okay, that's a good idea.
But otherwise, thank you.
Yeah, you know, where the lysosomal diseases sort of fit into these sort of subgroups, like Tay-Sachs and the allied diseases, or the mucopolysaccharidoses. I know these are like long, crazy words, but when they're like groups of diseases, and there are many, many more patients have been identified. I mean, they're still all individually rare diseases, but there are just many more players that have a common interest in finding a solution to the disease, a therapy. And again, Salla is out there by itself. It really, it doesn't fit into a larger group. And so, but these other groups, they really have raised money. There are foundations that like the National MPS Society here in the U.S., funds several $100,000 in research grants every year for those diseases. It's just that Salla doesn't fit into it, so that it needs its own organization. But there is a lot that can be done along those lines, and Niemann-Pick C disease again might be a great example where even there, certain families have taken initiatives and have raised a lot of money. Some of you, in the States at least, may have heard of Ara Parsegan, who was a former football coach that's American football coach at Notre Dame. And he had 3 grandchildren with Niemann-Pick C disease. And through his influence, and since he was so well known in the sports community, they created a foundation, the Ara Parsegan Medical Research Foundation, which has raised several $1 million for Niemann-Pick C disease research. So there are ways forward like that. Of course, NIH does fund studies on rare diseases, but the budgets are always tight, and most grants are only like 10% of the grants that are submitted are funded, and so sometimes they make it as a rare disease grant, and sometimes they don't. But NIH is very much our ally in this effort. But it's just a funding shortage.
There's a family who lost a little boy to Niemann-Pick A, which is a super. It's maybe on the same degree of rareness as Salla. Not a famous football player, just regular set of parents, and they've raised so much money. They have an annual fundraiser. They've raised so much money that they're supporting a gene therapy trial. They're supporting I think at least 3 different drug repurposing basic science trials, as well as 1 small clinical trial. So single families can do that. Even if they're not necessarily, again, famous NFL players, there's definitely a way to make a huge difference. It's a lot of effort, but there are people that we can even we could probably put you in touch with other families with other diseases that have been successful at it, to try to learn from them how they've been doing it.
When we talk about funding, once the doctors exit the conversation, we have, I went to the Juilliard School, and I happen to know people. No, but I do. We have John Patitucci, who's won multiple lists for jazz, and he has agreed to do a fundraiser concert once or twice a year to raise money for this, as well as my friends who sing at the Metropolitan Opera. We're going to do private concerts, and that's how I'm not a sports person, I'm a music person, so that's my connection and how we can. We also have social media ideas that we'll share once the doctors exit about how we can, like the Ice Bucket Challenge, we'll explain later, but about challenging people to be a star for rare disease, Salla treatment and research. So we will discuss that. We have ideas, and any other ideas we're game for. I'm going to turn my attention to the Horsted family. Hello. Any questions from you guys?
Yeah, just one quick one. Thank you for being available this morning and for all your work. Wondering if there's anything you've seen or heard about dietary, anything we should do from a dietary standpoint. Our doctors have said no, but just curious if you had come across anything with that.
I haven't.
Generally for lysosomal diseases, apart from, I would guess, maintaining good nutrition, you can't influence the disease process that's going on in the brain by altering the diet. I mean, there was a lot of interest in that approach years ago with Niemann-Pick C disease, this disorder that I have mentioned several times, because it's a cholesterol storage disease, and cholesterol is building up inside of brain cells. And so one of the early treatments that they tried at NIH and elsewhere was to put children on a very, very low cholesterol diet. But it didn't work. And what we know today is, in fact, it really was completely incorrect, because the brain cells they're storing cholesterol, but they're sensing a deficiency because the cholesterol is trapped in this organelle inside the cell. And so even though there's too much of something, the cell actually is thinking there's a deficiency, and and to deprive or have a low cholesterol diet was in no way beneficial at all. And so this is a reminder that, we need to understand the pathogenesis of these diseases, because it provides insight into the way we could develop therapies. But, it's a great question, and you might, maybe, you think about a disease like phenylketonuria, that we're all tested for, the PKU, we're all tested for as infants, because if you limit this amino acid phenylalanine in your diet, you can prevent brain damage in the growing child. And so we've known about that since the 1950s. But for lysosomal diseases, there's no known connection where you can change the diet and somehow influence the disease state itself. Melissa, you agree? Did I make any mistakes there?
No, that was perfect. Yeah, there are many diseases that have to be treated with diet. In general, those are diseases that involve types of proteins or certain kinds of sugars, but storage diseases like these, right now, again, like Steve said, we've tried cholesterol reduction for Niemann-Pick C. We've tried, different kinds of fat diets for Niemann-Pick A, B. We actually, at one point, for Fabry disease, which is another lysosomal disease, we tried different diets based on blood type, thinking it might impact treatment. But so far for lysosomals in particular, there has been no dietary recommendations that have made sense yet, besides keeping a healthy weight, making the diet as nutritionally complete as possible. Perhaps when we study more, we'll learn more and be able to offer something recommendation, but for now there aren't any.
I found that with your meeting you, Dr. Wasserstein, your nutritionist was great. I found her lovely and giving me ideas about how just to have a healthy diet, of course, but it was nice to talk to a nutritionist and make sure that I'm hitting all of the nutritional, guidelines that Ben needs. So I loved your nutritionist. I thought she was helpful.
And one of the things for nutrition is more not necessarily the type of food that you're getting, but the texture of the food. Because if children at some point in the course of the disease have troubles with swallowing and
Yes.
tolerating solids and pooling things in their mouths, that's when we need nutritional therapy. But again, it's not really the restriction of any type of food, but more of an issue of how to prepare it and how to administer the food. That's individual for each kid.
Shane Hamilton, are you available? Shane?
Yes, I am. Yep, sorry.
Oh, I know, it's okay. Shane, do you have any questions?
No particular questions at this time. I just want to thank everybody. I think this is fantastic, and try to process it all and figure out what we can do to help out going forward.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shane. Who else am I missing to chat here? Danny Taylor, are you on?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I don't have any questions, actually. Adam covered my question, which was about the financials, fundraising and stuff. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, Jessica and the doctors, for putting this together. And I'm looking forward to help out as best as we can.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anita in Finland, I think I missed you. Would you like to ask any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else before we have the doctors exit? Thank you so much, doctors. We'll discuss financials now in the family part of the event, but we're so thankful. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Sunday and away from your families and really giving this this disease a closer look and begin research. Thank you.
Well, we're certainly very glad to help, and I look forward to meeting as many of you as possible at the meeting in September or at other opportunities. And I wish you well with your kids, your families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been working with families with rare diseases for my whole career, and it's things like this that really just, really mean so much to me and keep me going. So I just want to really thank you all for being just so passionate and so giving of your time and your energy to keep this alive and keep things happening. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Goodbye, doctors. Have a lovely day.
Bye.
So as we turn our attention to funding all of this, this is going to be a challenge. So our foundation, we are in the proper paperwork with the IRS and the United States. Mike, maybe you could talk about where we are with our paperwork.
Sure. Okay, so our foundation, we're incorporated in the state of New York. We have our EIN number, which is the employee identification number. And we've submitted our paperwork to the IRS that's key for in the States. I know internationally it's not gonna really matter, but in the States, once we filed with the IRS, we should get a temporary tax ID, which will make us a 501(c) nonprofit, which in turn, when we get donations in the States, I can give you our tax ID number, and your donation would be completely, basically a tax write-off. So that's going to be key, I think, for us getting the funding in the States, and that will make us a legitimate organization. So that's a key thing. We're down that road. Another key thing we want to do too is there's another form we can complete once we have our temporary tax ID number that will allow us to, when we do book with the hotel, we can also not be charged taxes on hotel fees. So that could save us some money there. So that's a key thing we're striving for when we do have our meeting in September, and I want to have this done before then.
Yeah, we're hoping that it's all finished before September. What's tough about the think tank and the family camp is that it's happening before the foundation is up and running. So that is leaving us in a bind. We need to raise enough money for the doctors to come. So with that being said, I'm gonna just show you a couple of, I think I need to share. I'm going to show you the document for the hotel and the fee. Now, if we do get our taxes, the write-off, this will be without taxes. So we'll be saving about, I think, $300. But for now, this is the hotel for the doctors, their food. Do you want to share it?
Yeah, I'm going to share the screen. The key thing too is we didn't want to wait to get our tax ID. We wanted to just get this thing going. So, what our goal is to have, each family or they could get together, support, one doctor. So you could support one doctor however you can to get them to New York, get them here to this meeting. So that's, what our goal is.
So why don't you share it? Share it. Also, I hope you could still see me, but yeah, so this is going to be for the doctor's stay. This is going to be for their think tank meeting room, the River Executive Board room. Let me see, are we opening it? Yes, so can you all see the conference expenses on your screen that we're sharing? Okay, yeah. So you see the governor's suite, and this is for families. We think it's going to save money if we have food available in the governor's suite rather than just always ordering from the hotel. So we decided to make the financial commitment to have the governor's suite, which is $400 a night. But eating at the hotel is $25 a person per meal. So we feel like it's going to save money if we get some sandwiches or some catering in there.
Plus the governor's suite too, during the day, that will allow us a space where families can get together. They can talk.
If it's bad weather, we have a place to go and gather. Right. The room rate you see is $159 a night plus tax. Those times 6. Those are for the 6 doctors that are staying. We have to include breakfast. We have to feed the doctors. So times 8, there's going to be 8 doctors the day of the meeting, not 6, because Dr. Walkley and Wasserstein we want to feed as well. The River boardroom, if you see that, that is an executive room with huge screens that they can split the screen 6 ways and really have a great space to do their research. It comes with their own internet system and cameras, and I think Roberto Zonku from Berkeley or Stanford, he will be calling in and they'll be able to see him. We're gonna feed the doctors lunch. You see that, see how it's $30 a person, that's expensive, times 8. And then their second room for sleeping. And then our grand total is $4,683. So that is happening. You might also see the Hudson A and B room. That is where we are having our therapists work with all of your children while the doctors work. Some people don't have access to vision therapy. We have a great vision therapist, and we feel that we want to share some of the rare therapies that New York City has to offer with all of you, that maybe you could take ideas home and implement those ideas at home. Are there any questions on the finances that you see on the screen? Okay.
And the key thing too is there are doctors that are here in New York, so they want to be staying in the hotel because they live close by. Dr. Wasserstein, Dr. Walkley,
and Costa
Stebrenis, all 3 of them are local. So.
Okay, so yes. So Danny Taylor has set up the U-Caring site. And, you know, if you can share that site with an aunt or an uncle, $10 here, $15 there, $20 here from, you know, a cousin, that's really, it all adds up. Having a child with special needs, a lot of our money goes to their medical equipment and their therapies, and we get it. But if we can, as families, all donate just a couple dollars here and there, it'll add up. It'll add up fast. Any questions on this?
This is Alicia from Canada. Just wondering, like you had talked about being in the process of getting it so that donations are tax deductible at some point. Do you know, like you said, that won't necessarily be international, but do you know how it works in terms of Canada and the States and tax deductible?
I'm not positive. I could research it. David, are you on the line?
I am on the line, and I'm afraid to say that I don't know the answer.
Okay, no worries. Okay, well, and it might even be worth, I don't know. Okay, so I guess another question would be, is there any benefit to somehow creating or like a satellite foundation in Canada or other countries so that we can also, you know, put that out to our family and friends, et cetera, for so that it's tax deductible?
I think eventually, yeah, that would be great. But I think, like, for us, my answer would be, and I want to research it more on our end, but for us, what we're doing is fine with IRS. So because you're in Canada, you're not paying the IRS, so there's no deduction for you to have. We would have to research, you know, so each individual country and how their whole tax structure works. I'm not positive about Canada. That one may be a little simpler, you know, because you're right to the north of us. So we'd have to look into that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do some research on that as well. I think it's probably not that difficult to find out.
Yeah. How about receiving donations from foreign countries? I mean, it's just a bank account. It would be okay. Receiving donations from foreign countries is fine. What would happen is it'd be a wire. You would have a bank account and a SWIFT code, which would provide the country it's going to. You're sending in dollars, I'm assuming US dollars, and then it would just go right into the bank account. What we want to do is we want to wait probably until we need to set up our bank account. Once we have the temporary IRS tax ID, then we can set up the bank account for the foundation. So that's what we're waiting on. And then once we have that, we can provide that information to have foreign funds flow into the foundation's bank account. Now, what would be really cool from families is the Salla event coverage. I've reached out to the New York Times, the Juilliard Journal, the Wall Street Journal, the Learning Channel, Oprah Winfrey's Network, Time Magazine. I want this event covered before the foundation is up and running. So when people go and read about it, read about this Salla think tank family camp, and it's covered in publications, people can read about it, and then they can donate to the foundation right away. So we're really hopeful that the donation or the foundation is up and running right at the same time that the Salla event happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're in Atlanta, call Atlanta Journal or whatever publications in Atlanta. If you're in California, if you're in South Dakota, call your newspapers, tell them that this event is happening. And it's really remarkable. Families from around the world getting together, the best doctors around the world getting together. It's really a rare thing. It's really a cool thing. So,
and I think that also may just get families together. I have a feeling, my theory is this is a disease that has been misdiagnosed for years.
Yeah.
I think now when we've had the testing, the genetic exome sequencing, for us, I think that's what really pinpoint what this disease was. It's not, what was the first disease?
Cerebral
palsy.
We got a diagnosis of cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of you got that diagnosis? You know,
we did.
What is
the name?
Yeah.
We didn't understand.
So,
in the States, there's a disease or a brain damage that they call cerebral palsy, and it usually happens at birth. But it's sort of a garbage term. Your kid is not hitting milestones. It's cerebral palsy. And so a lot of families go home, okay, cerebral palsy, but they don't go down the road of genetics. And so doctors are thinking that way more cases of Salla are going to pop up with whole exome sequencing.
Yeah.
I'm going to, do we have any questions? I'd just like to go through the events of the day. The think tank, the family event. Do you mind sharing that, honey? Sorry guys, takes a second sometimes. We're learning too.
I was going to say, because people ask me if I've ever treated anyone with Salla before, and I was like, not that I know of, but when you first see it, it does present a lot like cerebral palsy. And when you start watching the muscles and how everything comes in, it's different. So in my 17 years, now I say, I don't think I have, but maybe I have.
Yes.
Correct.
And our therapist too, Carla, they weren't unable to join today, but they said that, gosh, this seems like cerebral palsy, but there's a little difference. I don't know. So we got encouraged a lot to go down the genetics road. Yeah. So here is the family.
And we've, just not to cut you off, and we've also found for us, we have something called early intervention here, and that's basically gets all of Ben's therapies together. And we found that's made
a huge
difference as far as his occupational, feeding, vision therapies,
special education,
all that. It's been wonderful.
He's in therapy 21 times a week. All right. Thursday, the family camp agenda. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Okay. 4 o'clock, meet the families and the doctors on that Thursday. We're going to hear welcome remarks from Wasserstein and Walkley. And again, a brief overview of what they want to do during the think tank. We'll also welcome you. Our plan is to have a big, maybe a school bus that we can rent. And at 5:45, just down the street, we want to take the doctors and the families for a hibachi dinner. Hibachi, if you're not sure of what it is, they play with the food and there's fire and it's more of a show while you eat. It's a really fun, hibachi is a fun way to eat. Of course, if you have nutritional needs, let us know and we'll let the restaurant know. And then back to the hotel. And then Friday is really the heartbeat of what this event is all about. The doctors want to meet at 8 o'clock in the morning already. So they really want to get to work in their executive river room that we rented. At 9:30, we're going to start the therapies with the families. in the Hudson A and B room. So we're going to have a physical therapist with Azriel. He is Cuevas medic. He's the only Cuevas medic. He believes in no intervention with orthotics, and it's all through physics and gravity that he really works with kids. It's unconventional. We love him. It's just a different therapy that most folks aren't aware of or used to. He has to go to South America to be trained in this. So there are only a few Cuevas medic technicians in the United States.
Or North America.
North America, for that matter, yeah. Occupational therapist, Carla, I'm sure you'd love to meet her. Her name is Cooley. She went to Columbia University. She does a lot of taping open. She tapes open hands. She's also infant massage therapist, massaging tight muscles. We have our vision therapist, Joy. She is great with getting kids to not only see, but cognitively understand what they're seeing. She's great with that. And then we do want to have a nutritionist there. This is going to be very carefully scheduled so kids don't get tired. We'll have lunch in between, maybe a place, time to swim, relax, nap if you need. Let me know your nap schedule and I can adjust accordingly. 4:30 to 5:30, the doctors want to invite us to have an overview of what they accomplished. Therapies that maybe they want to try. So they're going to really inform us of what they worked on that day. We are going to have students from Montefiore and Einstein, students of nursing, special education, and occupational therapy, go into the governor's suite, that fancy room that we ordered, and they'll take care of the kids and enrich them while we hear and we can actually focus on what the doctors accomplished that day. 5:45, now here is where a lot of you talked about, gosh, how are we gonna raise money for a foundation? So 5:45, our star, John Patitucci, our Grammy Award winner, has invited us to his home for dinner. He lives near the hotel as well, and that could be a really cool idea for the kids that he is representing. He's our first star doing concerts for us and raising money. So that could be a really cool thing, is to meet him and thank him for all of his work. And then Saturday is the goodbye breakfast. And then we're working on obtaining tickets to the local Bronx Zoo, Botanical Gardens, Central Park Zoo. And we just want to send you off to have fun in New York if you have time. With that being said, that concludes our meeting. Is there any questions that anybody might have?
No, thank you. Thank you, Jessica. It's great what you did. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. How do I get to see them again? So that is that. Email Finland. Get this word out there in Finland. This is, anybody. I also reached out to the Dutch Amish. There are Dutch Amish communities that have the disease, but they don't have internet access or electricity. I didn't hear back from anybody.
Yeah, it's in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Dutch,
the Amish,
they have this disease in there, and because, they, stay within themselves, it's probably accelerating in that community a lot more, this disease. So there's a big spike there that we've seen.
Go ahead.
You might want to mention again how they can go to the website where the gal set up to collect money for this.
Yeah, Danielle Taylor, are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, there's somebody coming on right now. I'm sorry, I'm admitting somebody onto the site. Danielle, how long do we want to keep this site up for until the event actually happens?
Yeah, I'm open to keeping it open until you guys are ready to end it. I'm thinking sometime in September, but the goal or the purpose of me setting this up was just since we don't have the foundation up and going, I feel like we've got a lot of family members that care about our children. I have a lot of family members who, have asked me what's going on with research for Maddie's disease. Is there any way we can help? Yada, yada, yada. So I think this would be a good way to just kind of start out small, collectively raise money. A lot of families have already given. I think we're close to 2,500 right now. So it's been really great. So if you can share it, I've been sharing it periodically on my social media, and I've still been getting, little donations here and there. So yeah, my purpose for doing that was just sort of alleviate the burden of that cost being on just us, because we're such a small group.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And we really appreciate you doing that.
Who's this new family that just joined? Hi.
Russia. We very bad speaking English.
That's okay. It started an hour ago. We're almost finished with the meeting, but we did record it. We recorded the meeting, so you can listen to it. Okay.
We're recording, and first we are translate this.
That's okay. Where are you from?
Russia.
Moscow.
Moscow. Yeah.
Wow. That is cool. Welcome. I am sorry the doctors just left, but it's recorded and we're happy to share it with you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm understand.
Thank you. So, yes, Uncle Ken.
They can reach that donation page if they go to the Salla Facebook page, right?
Yes. Sorry. So I shared a link to the Facebook page on Salla, and then you can also go to your website that you set up, Star for Ben. I think you guys put a link on that site as well.
Yes, that's your link. We have a link directly to your donation page on our website, on our temporary website. This is our website just for the family camp.
Right. This is not the foundation site. Right.
Yeah, we got to get that up and running. You have to, and you have to find that in your web browser because it's, or you can look it up, but it's kind of tricky how you have to look it up right now because I have to tinker with that. And you also there's something called SEO, which is how you get, when you search something, that's how you get to the top of the list. So that's another thing, I have to work on too.
Right. So the easiest way for them to reach the page is to go to Facebook under Salla, right?
Yeah.
And then find it
Yeah,
there.
that would probably be the easiest way.
Or they can always contact us. We can direct them too. So
now, once we're not set on this being called a Star for Ben, but if it is called that with the foundation, all of your children are going to be Ben's solar system. So Ben is going to have a solar system of kids that once we do create the website for the foundation, we hope to click on your family and have family members click on your child so they don't feel like they're just giving to us. They feel like it's a whole group effort.
Yeah.
So we want this to be Salla treatment and research and really
and have your family or your child have its own solar. They can have their own solar system. They can set up Elodie's solar system, and then you could have all her stars around her, anyone.
Yeah.
So.
And then our Facebook campaign and our social media campaign for raising money, when the time is right, is how are you a star in your life? And this is really David's idea. Thank you, David Helperin. So I sing, Uncle Ken, you do math, you do finance. I don't know, the Mobergs, I think someone's a lawyer there. How can you share how you're kind? How are you a star for rare disease? Be a star for rare disease, share it with your friends, call on somebody else to be a star. Like the Ice Bucket Challenge raised so much money. Maybe we can get this social media campaign being a star in your life, a star for rare disease, and people can become more aware of rare diseases in that way.
Correct. And we're open to any ideas on how to make the foundation, the website, anything to improve it and make it better. We're very open to hearing any suggestions.
It's a family effort.
Yep.
And will the extra money, like if you go above the $5,000 goal, that'll just go straight into the foundation?
Right.
Oh yeah, and then we in turn, that's going directly to our doctors, and we're gonna, into research and, really getting something going. And,
gosh, if we raise more than the $7,500 needed, Yeah, it's going to go right to their research immediately. Here you go. God willing, here's $2,000. Start
research, start creating
research.
The history database that they need. Collecting information about the disease.
Make the mice. Families. Make Salla mice. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we have the mice. That's the good thing. To
We
start
do have
research.
the mice.
Dr. Walkley has them, so that's how you figure out that he can explain that more in September. You test on these mice. That's how you figure out what works, and then you go from there.
Well, that's where Dr. Wasserstein steps in. Dr. Walkley does the science and sees if it works in mice, and then Dr. Wasserstein approaches the government and is able to give the drug to our children in a safe way. That is really what she does.
Yeah.
I think the closing dinner at the event itself will be a huge part of deciding what the next steps and how money should be utilized and even focused, and what sort of areas. And I don't necessarily think that will be a decision that will be made on the spot. It very well may be, but certainly any additional funds would be used for those areas that the doctors have identified as requiring the most attention in terms of resources.
Yep. And we can, and once we're set up too, we can also file for grants. There's a lot of stuff that we can really look into and try to get various grants or anything in, or find someone else that wants to collaborate with us.
Lena, are you still on?
Yes.
David thought of a good idea. How can we approach the Finnish government if this is a Finnish disease? How can the Finnish government, fund some money for this research? That's another question that I leave to you, Finland.
Thank you. I try to find an answer.
Go.
Yeah. Another one of our thoughts was actually to approach the Finnish consulate here in New York and discuss this with them.
All right, guys. Any other questions? Oh, Ken, Florida.
How do they get to the recording of the event today? Of what we did today.
David.
We will be creating we'll be downloading the recording, posted on YouTube, and it'll go on the Facebook page. Jessica will make sure of that, I'm sure.
I don't know how to do that, David.
I'll help you, don't worry.
Okay, well, hopefully by tomorrow it'll all be posted.
Yeah.
So whoever wants to sit there for an hour and listen to this stuff. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day.
And thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, Russia.
Bye.